Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with Within Comic Roundup. We're at about the midway point, so let's kick things off with Black Panther number 3. Where we left off, T'Challa had encountered one of the other costume citizens of Britain T'Chaka, Besa, and had in fact managed to find Besa's home, and well, so these should begin with T'Challa and Besa talking. Besa provides some intelligence to T'Challa about the city. For example, there's a series of kidnappings amongst BT's elites, wealthy and powerful, and those associated with them. But Besa has a theory, pointing out that the list of the missing, as far as she can tell, does not include conspicuous allies of Baba Nakisu, who is described as being a crime boss. We get some history on Nakisu. T'Challa describes him as a crime boss, though Besa points out that the word daimyo or sovereign is what truly comes to mind, adding that Baba Nakisu's father and grandfathers simply ruled through force. It's the most vicious acts that Wakanda has ever seen. Nakisu took the helm after his father was murdered by their rivals, the Ilonga family, when he was 19 years old. No one took him seriously. He declared that he was now father to all the family, and as well as the city of Britain T'Chaka. Publicly, he decries his family's past actions, but for years he's been making inroads into legitimate businesses through money laundering, racketeering, patronage, and bribery. Privately, Baba Nakisu is as violent and cruel as his forebears, perhaps more so. But Besa had broken into Niobe Umaru's office as a wealthy investor who disappeared, had loaned money to a local vendor who brought the paperwork to Niobe to look over. Besa was hoping the records might be illuminating, but they were not. But Besa further explains that what she needs is the families in equilibrium, the city in equilibrium, so she can do what she does. If wealthy elites continue to go missing, it'll be harder for her to rob them, to put it delicately. But T'Challa also does tell her that yes, he's actually Black Panther. Some days later, T'Challa, in his disguise as Ive, learns of an upcoming big deal wedding in town. The bride coming from the Alio family, old money, manufacturer shaped the city centuries ago. Buildings, museums, and charitable enterprises all over BT share the name. elegance, history, distinction. The groom is a member of the Nikisu. The Nikisu family, new money from the global stock exchange, they say. Though T'Challa, though the owner of the eatery that T'Challa works at, states that the money is from the stock market as sure as the mountains are flat. For the Leo family, this union brings wealth. Rumor is that much of the Leo family's fortune has been squandered. For the Nikisu family, it brings legitimacy. But a representative of the Nikisus arrive. Turns out that the bride has is nostalgic for some of the simple food she grew up eating in the Klima's End district of Burned T'Chaka. She said she has a list of requests. And it's required to be there by 7 o'clock. The messenger states that when it comes to staff, that Ive should definitely be sent, wanting Ive on his side in a pinch. But Ive's boss states that is impressed by Ive's capabilities in dealing with the Nikisu family enforcers, stating simply that he grew up in a challenging neighborhood and had to learn self-defense. But T'Challa talks to Besa about this, as saying he now has a cover for infiltrating the wedding. While Besa is looking over, trying to figure out what she's going to wear, she finds that she comes upon a bracelet. We get a flashback to her past in Mahanda, which is Wakanda's northern neighbor. Basically, her leaving home with her mother, with her family saying that, with Besa stating that her mother drove her out, or drove her away. The next day, T'Challa brings the requested items to the wedding for the bride. Does what he can to get to gather intel, while Besa does the same in the more public spaces of the wedding. However, there's a commotion as Deathlock appears from the ceiling, or from the skylight. Shortly after this, Black Panther arrives on the scene, informing Besa that he's present and that the assailant is, in fact, Deathlock, who has already apparently killed one of the wedding guests. I think there was also there was not a God's lead-in. Okay. That is where the issue ends. Nice to see the Deathlock bits being kind of at least addressed so quickly. Getting some of the explaining some of the city's political landscape was also nice. It fleshes out it fleshes out Burned T'Chaka quite well, and it also adds additional. I guess I don't want to say flavor, but it does add. It adds to the concepts of adding to kind of what Wakanda is. There's a map that there's been a map of Wakanda, I think, in each issue so far of this current run, and Britain T'Chaka is in the is at one of the northernmost cities in Wakanda. So I guess it would stand to reason that if someone was to come to Wakanda from Honda, they would likely do so from a northern settle in somewhere in the northern part of the country. Northern part of the country. Excuse me. Moving on, though, to our next book, we've got Captain America Finale, wrapping up the true wrap up of Captain America Sentinel of Liberty. After Cold War, Roger Aubrey, the Destroyer, was dead. And it seemed clear that Bucky was ready and willing to bring Steve in, bring in Steve Rogers in his attempt to bring down the Outer Circle. Furthermore, Sharon Carter had opted to take on the mantle of the Destroyer. And finally, Redacted had come up with a name, or had at least had a name suggested for it. Nomad. So, Cap and his allies plan for the assault. The inner circle, or the outer circle, well, they have their meeting. Apparently, with Bucky stating that they've come to the end of the game. Love states that sooner time than any imagined. The power is used his final move to save his own life. The money to hire mercenaries to defend the fortress. The machine to fill her halls with designer organisms that answer to her alone. Their noble efforts have degraded into a dull and redundant pissing contest, so only one last move remains. Love abstains and withdraws. As the Love leaves, she states that since Bucky arrived there, the board belongs to the Revolution. And so, the Revolution states for the final move, death to the Outer Circle. Cap, Destroyer, and Nomad arrive, make their way through the mercenaries, including not just nameless mercs, but also Taskmaster, Crossbones, Viper, and a much as well as what appear to be a larger army than they expected, with Nomad thinking that maybe they should have maybe the plan won't work as they think. However, they've got reinforcements. As Steve and Sharon's son Ian arrives from Dimension Z with an army backing him up to reinforce Sharon, Steve, and Nomad. The machine disconnects her human shell to focus on basically running the defenses of and becomes the fortress. Cap ends up basically ends up tossing his shield into a straight into an interface. Turns out there's a hidden kill switch. The machine is destroyed. The money and the power, well, they still resist. Bucky's cat manages to distract the money as he attempts to leave, leading to him tripping and seemingly fatally breaking his nose. But the fortress is falling apart. Bucky grabs on to avoid falling. The fortress crashes down, and Bucky pulls his pistol on the power. Steve comes up, and while the power points out that Bucky's still a killer, Steve tells Bucky he doesn't have to pull the trigger. However, if that's Bucky's call, well, Bucky's still Steve's friend, and Steve trusts him. And they have a better idea of how to deal with Fortunoff. Left to the tender mercies of a noble of Fortunoff's home country of Latveria. The power is basically thrown through a teleportation portal into Doom's throne room. Doom gives a monologue about having wiped out the rest of the Fortunoff's family. And that, in fact, Fortunoff even meddled with the fabric of magic. Doom states that other nations would sooner forget the actions of tyrants like the Fortunoff family. In Latveria, they ensconce their revolutions. They keep them fresh with anger and teach their truths to school children. But Doom states that in the years since he slaughtered the rest of Fortunoff's family for their crimes, he does have one certain regret that he's overjoyed to finally rectify. The century game lasted a century. Doom states that the power's death will last much longer. Back on Manhattan's Lower East Side, things are back the way they're supposed to be. Steve's neighbor Amari is overjoyed to see that Steve's alright. Steve goes for a run, passing by his friends from art class, and seemingly also being joined by Bucky and Sharon. And that is where Something Called Liberty ends. It should be noted that a new Captain America, I'm guessing ongoing, is starting next month, focusing on Steve, written by J. Mike Straczynski, making his return to Marvel. But I liked Sentinel. It was good. It was a good title. It was a good series. Had some interesting concepts, and you know it was in many ways exactly what I would want from a Captain America ongoing. Though to be fair, my expectations are a bit skewed, as the first Captain America ongoing I regularly read was at Brubaker's run. So, you know, take that as one will. Moving on, though, to our next book, we have The Immortal Thor, #1. So, a few years ago, Al Ewing, after the Hulk was brought back in the pages of the Avengers No Surrender story, Al Ewing started up a new Hulk ongoing, The Immortal Hulk. Immortal Hulk was a massive critical success, and it not just was it wasn't just a critical success, but also a success with fans. It did something different with the Hulk, and so now Ewing is looking to do something similar with Thor. Will this be another body horror story? Likely not. I figured Ewing has something different in mind. A different type of Thor story, but still a Thor story. So, the quote. He is sitting with the last breath of dying men. The gods seat he with red gore defiles. Swart is the sunshine then for summers after. All weather turns to storm. Understand ye yet, or what? Else, away from the 10 realms, man simply says, one wheel turns. Frost giants have invaded Asgard, having seemingly overthrown Loki. Thor arrives in his classic costume as a blizzard is pouring down snow on Asgard. And Thor states that he's disappointed. The Frost Giants laugh, but he explains he wasn't speaking to them. He was speaking to the storm. Saying a storm of snow is still a storm, and still his to command. And the blizzard ends. The Frost Giants retreat, aside from their leader, who is shattered by Mjolnir. Though I say that he'll likely breathe. This particular Frost Giant wizard was once decapitated, so he regrew his head, so he'll likely be back. Loki shows up, explaining that being the king of Jotunheim didn't work out. And they decide to create a new Bifrost. It's done, though Loki does seem melancholy by having done it. And so, Thor returns to Midgard. We see him arriving in Times Square, being celebrated by people. He signs a kid's Captain America shield, takes pictures with people, including Thor cosplayers. Plays chess with a man in the park. Saves a mutant from the forces of Orcus. Has seems a fulfilling day, and a storm arrives, and while he's standing on top of the Statue of Liberty. And the storm strikes the statue, destroying it. An entity within the storm states one wheel. Well, the question asks, states Thor the storm was the god of storms. Who was the god of the superstorm, though? The entity within the storm states one wheel, and it states that for too long has this world stagnated. Too long has it chosen illusion over change. Sleepwalk through a dream of life, but he is the bloody awakening. Comes from Utgard. The storyland is the land of true things, to shatter the false world apart. Identify himself eventually as Tornos, the Utgard Thor. The storm wreaks havoc on the world, and Thor attempts to bandy words with Tornos, with a massive blast of lightning. Elsewhere, the Loki of Utgard is making plans to destroy Thor utterly. And that is where the issue ends. Interesting. The concept of Utgard alone is... yeah. This is... I regularly kick myself for having passed on Immortal Hulk when it started up. I'm not a Hulk fan, so it's like, no big. But makes me glad that it's available, that there is an omnibus edition of it. Hopefully, maybe at some point I can get a copy of that omnibus, because I'd really like to read that. Moving on, though, to our next book, we've got Daredevil Echo number 4, wrapping up the miniseries. Where we left off, Matt Murdock had seemingly taken the place, the sacrificial place on the altar to the Blind One, which his ancestor had taken nearly 200 years previously. And so he is in what seems to be the Blind One's realm, along with his forebear. He's presented with 7 cups. Each holds a unique path connected to Matt's past, present, and future. By making a willing sacrifice, the Blind One must give him the choice of these cups. 6 lead to a path of particular bliss. 1 cup is different than the others. It's covered, and either leads to ultimate joy or deepest suffering. You will not know until you drink from it. The only way forward is to make a choice. There's a further poem given as a guide, though the first letters are important and basically say that blind faith is what one needs for dealing with this. Matt takes that blind faith is how he's lived his entire life, after all. Matt drinks from the covered cup. The Blind One states that he was supposed to choose himself and give the Blind One his soul. And so the blind one takes its true form in this afterlife and flips over the table. On Earth, beneath Hell's Kitchen, Echo and Ghost are dealing with Demogoblin and her children of the Apocalypse. Ghost Rider comes up with a means of communicating with Echo, basically writing out what she needs to tell her in Hellfire, stating that the children of the Apocalypse, their souls have been captured by Demogoblin, and Echo realizes that the small vial that Demogoblin wears around her neck has the souls, and so, with a chunk of rock, she shatters it, restoring the souls to each of the 4 children. Echo goes after the dagger, and the children still have their powers and opt to hold Demogoblin while Echo and Ghost Rider deal with her. In the weird afterlife, Matt and Tommy Murdoch deal with the blind one, and Matt detects with his radar sense something within him, a golden egg that pulses with power, giving Matt an idea. Tommy distracts the blind one while Matt retrieves the egg. The dagger is removed from Daredevil and then used to stab Demogoblin. Matt with the egg after the blind one is destroyed, Tommy Murdoch moves on in the afterlife, and Matt goes towards a sweat lodge. Once inside, he sees Echo's ancestor, who explains everything. He puts the egg where it needs to go, and is returned to his body. While Demogoblin breaks free of Ghost Rider's chains, she's kicked by Daredevil, and then her children of the Apocalypse ensure that she goes to the afterlife she's supposed to go to. The kids are all returned home, and later Elektra, Daredevil, and Echo are at presumably Echo's place enjoying a cup of tea. The series ends with Lior, one of the 4 children of the Apocalypse, back in school. Being the teacher in his class asks what brings myths one step closer to reality, and Lior states that most myths come from some sort of truth. Sometimes it's exaggerated. Other times the truth is even scarier than the story. That is where the series ends. This I really like this book. It was a good miniseries. I like seeing I like the character of Echo, and it was nice seeing her back. I wasn't entirely fond of Echo as the host of the Phoenix Force, but that's mainly just kind of that's more along the lines of the Phoenix Force is an X-Men thing, so maybe it should be with the X-Men and not an Avenger, but yeah. There were interesting stories told with Echo as the host of the Phoenix Force, but yeah, it was nice seeing her. It was nice seeing her back to, well, the character that that how most readers know the character, which is a def street level vigilante with photographic reflexes out of Taskmaster. Anyway, moving on though to our last book for the moment, we've got Moon Knight City of the Dead #2. Where we left off, Moon Knight was in the titular City of the Dead, trying to save the soul of a young boy who had been shot by a gang known as the Sons of the Jackal. The, the Jackal Knight in the underworld had organized basically a group of Moon Knight's dead enemies to further harry Moon Knight in his quest. However, Moon Knight had found an ally, Layla Faluli, now the Scarlet Spectre, or Scarlet Scarab. They make their way through the city, asking questions, trying to find the kid, dealing with things such as Ramses, and Ramses' various hedge spirits. Information is gleaned, and Layla explains how it was she became the Scarlet Scarab. Apparently, her heart was the weight of a feather. One of Ramses' hench spirits is stopped and carrying what appears to be a casket. Has a young boy inside. So there's a hole in his chest. They look around and find a cage full of children. The idea being that the whole I believe it's Anubis who weighs the heart. But apparently, what's happening is that these children are having their hearts removed in the afterlife, so that less savory characters can use them at oh yeah, weigh this against the feather. Oh hey, the scale is balanced. But Moon Knight and Scarlet Scarab were attacked by the grouping of Moon Knight's enemies, who are admittedly overlapping each other. Each one wants to be the one to kill Moon Knight. But Moon Knight is brought before the Jackal Knight, who reveals himself to be none other than Mark Spector's brother Randall. And that is where the issue ends. I'm liking this miniseries. And I like the fact that they brought in the basically how the MCU interpreted Scarlet Scarab as a character potentially speaking supporting character in the for Moon Knight in the comics. Anyways, that is going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Big shout out to Patreon patron Xander Lee. Thank you so much for your support. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Mastodon, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.